Hey, Foot Clan, ever wondered what it might be like to captain some of the greatest warships of World War II? Then you got to check out World of Warships, the free-to-play historical online combat game from War Gaming. You can download it right now for free today at commandwarships.com to begin your naval adventure. Make sure you enter the code FOOTBALLERS18.
All caps. All caps.
When you download to get a ton of bonus content courtesy of the Fantasy Footballers. That means a free premium ship, the famous Aurora Cruiser, and a pile of in-game currency to start your epic adventure. Just download World of Warships today at commandwarships.com and start playing today.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome into the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Andy Holloway, Mike, the Fantasy Hitman Wright, Jason Moore, and Judge Giamatti. All present.
The judge.
All here. And I'm going to make a commitment to you out there. We are having a show today. And we really are. We're going to have a show today.
Wow.
This ain't no Josh McDaniels.
No pullback.
We're really doing a show. You see where I was going there? When we make a commitment, all 521 times we've made the commitment to do a show, we do a show.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome in. We've got an absolute incredible episode. I'm telling you, you do not want to miss this. This is an important episode, and we have 10 things that you need to remember from this past season of fantasy football, and these are things you need to remember as you head into the 2018 fantasy football season.
Yeah, you're going to want to get out that pen and that paper, write these things down. I literally have a kind of a fantasy football journal where I've got a page in there of, as the year goes on, I write down certain things that I want to remember because we are so easy to forget. So this is an episode to help you. Dear Diary.
Travis Kelce looked longingly at me today.
Really?
Well, I'm just guessing what's in your
this
your
was
journal.
My diary.
No, this is your
Man,
journal.
That was a great day.
You said you have a journal.
Yeah, I do.
It's a great episode. Don't miss it. Coming up very soon. The 10 things you need to remember. Before we jump into a little bit of news and the quick question, I have to say this. We are humbled and honored and thrilled to have been awarded the 2017 Fantasy Sports Writers Association Fantasy Football Podcast of the Year award.
Get hyped!
We had the pleasure of joining Rick Wolf and Andy Behrens on SiriusXM yesterday. When we found out that we had won, we found out just moments before the announcement, and had the chance to go on there and thank, obviously, the Fantasy Sports Writers Association, all of our peers, all of which we, they've come before us, and we respect them greatly, and we had the privilege of being among many great podcasts.
And would not be here without that hashtag Foot Clan listening in.
I mean,
so
it's just...
Thank you so much yet again for continuing to support the show. Thank you.
Absolutely. It is absolutely amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah, let's get some more.
Absolutely.
Absolutely's.
All right, quick question of the day.
I'd settle for some abs.
Oh, man, I wouldn't settle. I would kill for some abs.
Like with barbecue sauce on them?
I'm told that there are abs.
like a rack of abs?
Oh, man, a rack of abs. Oh, I'm starving.
A full rack of abs.
Yeah.
All right, hey, much more important question. Bonjour from Nottingham, UK. I almost said Ukraine.
Oh, bonjour.
Brooks, you almost threw me off here. All right, hashtag Double Foot Clan title. This quick question comes in off of Twitter from Grant Dean Lawless. He says, look, who has earned the heart ring of 2017? Previously worn the heart ring, of course, by Danny Woodhead and Cole Beasley. Guys, we each have the opportunity to nominate somebody for this heart ring. I think it's up to Brooks to put it on the finger. But
I like that.
Make your case for the heart ring
of
2017.
I was looking forward with my answer. I misread who earned it. I thought we were saying, like, who's going to get it in 2018.
Oh, for the upcoming year.
Yeah, so I'll save mine for last since
even though the question is plainly written, who earned it for 2017?
Here, you forgot the part about reading.
Yeah, it's not Mike's strong suit. Here's who I'm going to nominate. I'm going to nominate a guy who is so under-respected that he was cut from a team that couldn't run the ball.
Under-respected.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Alex Collins was cast aside from a team that ended up with a failed Eddie Lacy and a failed Thomas Rawls, and even when he was just constantly, putting his heart out there and his dancing shoes on and getting the job done for the Baltimore Ravens, it still was like, are they going to stick with him? Are they going to go? He just never – he was total Rodney Dangerfield, never got the respect he deserved, and he played great. He put his heart out there. I nominate him for the heart ring.
It's a nice nomination. Now,
it's okay, but I just feel like he's too large.
He is a pretty big guy.
Yeah, I feel like it's more about who are those people who are disrespected than those who are just tiny.
I am giving it to Deion Lewis, the number 12
was tiny
running back.
Yes, I like this.
A monster into the season, and yeah, he's tiny. He's a little guy. He's come back from injury. He's overcome the odds. The odds given you when you are a Brown at some point in your career. And he is much like Danny Woodhead. He overcame the Jets being cut from their training camp and became something wonderful. And Deion Lewis is great. I mean, he's absolutely great. So I think he is well deserving of the heart ring necessary to summon Captain Planet.
All right, I guess it. So I'll go with 2. So this year I'm giving it to Chris Thompson.
Oh, I love it.
The talent is unbelievable. The injuries is a problem. It was a problem yet again, but we know when he's on the field, he is absolutely magnificent. But I'm giving a special 2018 prediction here.
Oh,
I love it.
Darren Sproles, the heart. Look, this guy.
He wore the heart ring before it was cool.
I know. He's taking it back.
What?
Yes.
I don't love that.
Yes.
You changed on me.
No.
I thought you were going Ryan Switzer.
Yeah, I thought about Ryan Switzer. It just made natural sense.
You think he might be able to double his 6 receptions from this past year?
Ryan Switzer?
Switzer?
Well, the thing about Switzer is you're talking same team as Cole Beasley. He's just going to morph into that position.
Okay. So you
That's
like
what I
Darren
was projecting.
Sproles
But I'm
to
going
come
Darren
back?
Sproles to take it back.
Wow. Some honorable mentions I threw out there. Tariq Cohen, worthy of a heart ring consideration. I mean, that was a great rookie year.
Certainly.
But, yeah, I like that. I like
Corey
Chris
Clement.
It's
Sure.
5'11".
No, but what's he weigh?
209.
Yeah, see, that's
Oh, so it's a weight and height?
it's a size.
This
yeah.
is getting complicated.
Size is weight and height.
So but MJD, I mean, he was short
MJD
and heavy.
His thighs weighed 200 pounds.
Yeah.
He's a 400
All right,
pound.
He's
Brooks.
not worthy of a heart ring.
No.
Brooks, who's the heart ring winner?
Oh,
Deion Lewis.
yeah.
Number 12.
for
All right.
sure.
Follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. We'll be here all off season long, 2 times a week, an extra show on jointhefoot.com, and then we roll into 5 episodes a week from August through December. We're going to get you ready for the NFL draft. We're going to get you ready for your fantasy draft, and we're going to talk through all of the free agent acquisitions and changes, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for the offseason. I'm excited to mock draft. I'm excited to talk.
Whoa, did someone say mock draft?
Yeah.
Don't mind
And
if I do.
we've got some exciting stuff happening this summer. We have some live shows.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do a few more live shows this year. They're going to happen in June and July. We'll tell you where very soon, but we're very excited about that. And it's going to be a very, very enjoyable start to 2018. I'm going to tell you that right now. All right, news and notes time.
News and notes from around the league.
It's a sympathy laugh because I've sat in that chair where you got to push the button. It seems like something that a child can do, but it's far more difficult than you can possibly imagine.
You know, I think we can afford to upgrade the iPad.
Well, the problem is the depth perception. When you're
I didn't miss the button, Mike. I don't have an eye closed. I didn't throw my hand in the air.
Oh, you're blaming the iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve
User
Jobs.
error.
See, I'm over here trying to.
Yeah,
to
you were You were trying to get his
giving
back.
you an embrace of mistakes.
You know it was Brooks' fault.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
All right.
The worst.
Josh McDaniels is the head coach of the Knots.
Breaking news.
Josh McDaniels is not the head coach of the Colts. We have followed this story now for the last couple of days. By the time you listen to this, you'll probably have read a variety of new information. But here's the gist. Josh McDaniels agreed in every way, shape, and form other than a pen on paper to be the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, all the way to the degree that his assistants that he had recruited had signed contracts, people he had brought over. This was going to happen, and then he had a meeting with Bill Belichick, and he had a meeting with Robert Kraft, and they convinced him to renege, and his agent has since terminated their relationship, and he is returning as the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots. From what I've read, he has not been given any assurances or guarantees that he will be the next head coach of the Patriots, but they gave him security. They gave him a raise, and from what I was reading earlier today, Bill Belichick said he would take him behind the curtain a little bit more in terms of personnel and get him experience that he wanted, and his 4 kids get to stay in the same school. And so it's one of those things that he's been ripped on Twitter. Twitter is on fire.
He has been destroyed. And I get it. When it's
the Colts fans are salty, and I don't blame you for that either.
You know, you're only as good as your word. Your word is your bond, all of that. But we don't have all the details, and he feels like he's making the better decision for his family and his professional life. It sucks. It's very unfortunate. I was, however, reminding these guys in the room, this exact same thing happened. Their running back did this in free agency. Everything was reported that Frank Gore was a Philadelphia Eagle. The last second, guess what? He's an Indianapolis Colt. So you reap what you sow, and there was also whispers in the bushes that this might be a little Robert Kraft's getting back at a team for Deflategate.
Well, Chris Ballard, GM of the Colts, came out and said that, look, the rivalry is back on.
There is no rivalry.
There's a rivalry?
There's
there
a rivalry.
Was a rivalry.
Between ownership.
No, there was a very long rivalry
like
between
the Peyton Manning years.
Yes, yeah.
That was like 12 years ago.
Hey, the Colts have requested to interview Saints tight ends coach Dan Campbell.
Oh yes,
Guns Mahoney. I love Michael Keaton. Guns Mahoney, as well as now Eagles fans, they may be bummed out because Frank Reich is now being interviewed as well. So we'll see who ends up as the head coach of the Colts. It's not going to be Josh McDaniels. That's the gist. Anything else here? Curtis Samuel, second-year wide receiver going into 2018, needed surgery to repair a broken bone and ligament damage following that Week 12 injury. Week 10 injury. He's going to be in recovery, but should be ready for training camp.
That's all that matters is will he be back for camp, because Curtis Samuel, as we talked about in the rookie show, he's very interesting going into next year with the Panthers.
Yeah, I think the injury does worry me a little bit. The only other piece of news that I know of, sticking with the coaching theme, a little bit of bad news coming out of the Detroit area.
Terrible news.
Just made aware that Gimli, also known as Matt Patricia,
And my axe.
well, I don't know if you could say that anymore. He took an axe to his beard.
What?
Yes.
And while he still has a beard, it's a baby beard.
Wait,
and
did he listen to this podcast and didn't like the association?
He looks like an accountant.
Oh, come on. And my
apologies,
calculator.
There you go. So we'll have to wait and see if we can continue calling him Gimli.
That is absolutely devastating news. Do you realize this?
Yes, because
Twitter was on fire with the Gimli tweets.
if you ace the interview with that beard, with that hair,
That's what you're selling.
Yeah. They hired someone, and now they're getting this other guy.
we got a Samson situation going on here.
Yeah.
He's going to lose his powers.
Oh, goodness. That is devastating. All right.
Sorry to break the news to you.
Wow,
On
I'm in absolute shock. I've been working on that voice for months. Great.
It's your only.
Luckily, I have a good fallback accountant voice I can go to. So, all right, let's move on.
Don't forget to remember these things.
Said as only Jason would say it.
Yeah.
Do not forget to remember these things. 10 things to remember from the past season, and we have all brought something to the table in this segment. So I'm going to
half rack of abs.
Full. Full
I
rack.
apologize.
You brought the half rack. Jason
Yeah.
brought the full rack.
Yeah, so I get a rack and a half.
Yes.
Digressing to the list. All right, here's what I've got for you. The first thing that I want you to remember, are we counting these down? Does it matter?
No.
There's no order.
Okay. The
Number
first thing I want people to remember is this. And especially, I'm speaking to dynasty owners, I'm speaking to redraft owners, it doesn't matter. Look, rookie running backs have been really good. Really, really good. And in contrast, rookie wide receivers, including the aforementioned Curtis Samuel, very high draft pick, haven't been as good over the last 3 years. Now, you go all the way back to 2014, you had that amazing rookie class of wide receivers. But in 2015, first 3 running backs off the board, Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, then TJ Yeldon. Well, the wideouts were Amari Cooper, Kevin White, Devontae Parker, Nelson Aguilar. Some of those guys coming around, but it hasn't been a big dynasty win for wide receivers from that class. You go to 2016, you got Ezekiel Elliott. The next off the board was Derrick Henry. You had Kenyon Drake. You had Corey Coleman, Will Fuller, Josh Doxson, Laquan Treadwell.
Oh,
you haven't gotten
Treadwell.
anything out of that in dynasty formats. And if you look at those 4 names,
Fuller, you got
no. I mean, there's no way that you're happy
no. Just saying, it's not been a total disaster. Will Fuller showed up
for a couple games, as has Josh Doxson, Corey Coleman, a couple games.
I think the point that you're speaking to is it takes a little bit more time for wide receivers than running backs. If you're next year when you're only talking about rookies.
Well, and my point is in part that, but also look, guys like Kevin White might not have a future at all. This past year, I haven't even gotten to 2017. Fournette, McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Kamara, Hunt,
that's nice.
Or Corey Davis, Mike Williams, John Ross.
Curtis
Not good,
Samuel.
Curtis Samuel. So what I'm saying is, look, let's not be blind to a 3-year run, because it doesn't mean that the wide receivers aren't going to pan out for you in dynasty necessarily. What it does mean is we may be seeing NFL teams become more and more and more comfortable putting rookie running backs into a bell cow role out the gate. Last year, I mean, look, you would be happy with Fournette and McCaffrey. You'd have been happy with Cook, even though he was injured. And what you saw out of him, Mixon's going to have a full-time role this next year. Hunt, Kamara. I'm just saying, look, let's remember how good rookie running backs have been as we evaluate dynasty and redraft leagues.
I think the thing to also remember is just the fear of drafting a completely unknown player in redraft. I remember when Zeke was taken, I mean, you also have to take into account draft stock. Did the team trade up for this player? You have to follow those things as well. But Zeke drafted 104, and yet there were fantasy players hesitant to spend a back of the first round pick on Ezekiel Elliott, and we have 3 straight years of tremendous evidence that rookie running backs, when put into the right situation, you shouldn't be afraid to draft them with an early pick because they're going to get opportunity.
I remember when we were looking at rookies last year, I had done a study in the previous 10 years at that point. On average, there were 2 rookie running backs that finished as a RB1 on average per year. That's great. Does not happen the same with wide receivers. Speaking of wide receivers, my number 2.
Number 2.
The thing I want to remember from this last year is it actually came out of our consistency episodes we did a couple weeks back with wide receivers. Looking every single wide receiver, it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to have a couple bad games or more than a couple bad games, and it just gets worse and worse. But when I looked at the whole list and the data that I had collected, what was really evident to me was that there are only a handful of wide receivers who can put up the monster games. There's only a few, and they all go early. So if I am spending an early round draft pick on a wide receiver, that round 1, round 2 pick, in those rounds, I am going to focus on the guys who can have monster games that win me weeks, because I can get consistency. I can get a Jarvis Landry or, someone that's a volume play later. What I found out is you cannot get late in the draft guys that can have those 20-plus point weeks at any kind of consistency. There were only 6 guys this year, 6 wide receivers, that scored more than 20 fantasy points at 20% or more of their games. There were only 6.
Because of the 2020 rule.
Yeah, there you go, the 2020 rule. And this being a hindsight show.
Oh, my goodness.
We did.
With Barbara Walters.
Baba waba. And so the thing is I'll give you 2 examples here. What I'm looking at and remembering, this is why next year I will draft A.J. Green over Michael Thomas. I'll draft Tyreek Hill over Brandon Cooks. I want the guys who can have those monstrous games at a large clip because, yes, A.J. Green might disappear more, but he can do something that the others in those first few rounds can't and nowhere else in the draft can.
I love it.
I'm going to jump in here with number 3, and that's the annual. Looking back.
Love this.
How did the bus report go? And here's the deal, guys. And gals, of course. Only 2 running backs drafted in the top 12 busted, and one of those was David Johnson. So he was hurt. Besides that, Jay Ajayi is the only running back taken in the top 12 that actually busted. Yes.
And his is a unique situation because he was actually traded. We didn't get to see what bell cow in Miami would have been all year.
And I am designating a bust as you weren't even a running back 2.
Sure.
So DeMarco Murray, while he was disappointing for a lot of the year, he still finished at running back 23. And you look over in the top 15 finishers, 9 of those were drafted as top 12 running backs. And you only found 3 top 15 finishers after the 5th round. And those numbers, the 9 of the top 15 drafted in the top 12. I'm trying to make it as concise as possible with all these numbers. That's actually a pretty high number. Generally speaking, it's about 6. The wide receivers, though, you move over there. We had 3 busts. Odell Beckham Jr., not really his fault, injury.
He's David Johnson.
Not his fault at all. When I say not really, he was dominating, and then he went down. But Jordy and Amari Cooper, the only other 2 guys that busted who were top 12 wide receivers. So my point in saying this is it feels like running back was dominant, and it was just an absolute guarantee. But wide receivers shouldn't be slept on because it wasn't as bad as it feels coming out of the season. People feel like, well, running back was everything. The early drafted wide receivers still came through for your team.
Okay. That's the gist.
Yes. It could, because when these things happen, go 2 years ago when the running backs we had 6 players in the top 12 bust. Everything was 0 RB. Everything out there, which, again, I'm not crapping the strategy, just the general public, when they shouldn't be going 0 RB, they didn't care because it was running backs are volatile. They're going to get hurt. They can't help my team. Wide receivers are safe. It feels like, well, running backs are the safe play now because
you're
wide
saying
receivers
don't swing
help.
the pendulum.
Yes.
Okay. Before I jump into the 4th thing to remember that you shouldn't forget, but you should remember. Before I do that, I want to thank today's sponsor, Pristine Auction. Unbelievable deals on pristineauction.com every single day.
We need to have an applause track.
For Pristine Auction? Lev Bell signed Steelers logo football yesterday. JSA certified, $87. Derek Carr signed 11x14 photo, $52. Tyreek Hill, listen to this, signed 8x10, $25, 80¢.
Oh.
This was yesterday. Signed Chiefs jersey went for $47 on pristineauction.com. These are all authentic, certified, witnessed autographs. This company knows exactly what it's doing. They're not giving you terrible gear. This is amazing NFL gear for your favorite team, and you can outfit your office, your man cave, whatever it might be, with incredible gear. Devontae Adams signed jersey yesterday, $90 on the website. You can check it out. It's free to browse. Just tell them the Fantasy Footballers sent you. PristineAuction.com, PRISTINE auction.com. So we got that Alshon Jeffrey jersey on the wall.
And then they usually have some Jake Butt stuff up there.
Which Mike is a huge fan.
Huge.
Yeah, and we also want to thank Quip. Quip has taken
I love my Quip toothbrush.
a
I
tool
love it.
that every single one of us use every single day, and they've actually
Hopefully.
brought it. Yeah, I hope. Foot Clan, listen. And they've brought it into the modern times. Quip, they've combined dentistry and design to make a new electric toothbrush that packs just the right amount of vibrations into a slimmer design at a fraction of the cost of traditional electric brushes. With Quip guiding pulses, they alert you when to switch sides, making brushing the right amount of time effortless. It even comes with a mount that suctions right on your mirror, and it can be used as a cover for hygienic travel. Anywhere. And Quip, they've got a subscription plan that refreshes your brush on a dentist recommended schedule every 3 months for just $5, including free shipping. No wonder over 10,000 dental professionals suggest Quip, and they were named one of Time Magazine's best inventions of the year. It starts at just $25. Go to getquip.com/footballers right now. You get your first refill pack free with a Quip electric toothbrush. Again, that's GetQuip, QUIP, getquip.com/footballers.
You know what may have been one of the best inventions? The streaming quarterback.
Oh.
Number 4 on the 10 things to remember list. I want you to stream your quarterback, or at least consider it.
Well,
Now, I want to break this down for you, okay? Because we're going to get into this a lot in the offseason, but this is something to remember, and here's what I want you to see. Last year, here were the top 10 quarterbacks by average.
Safest position to draft, right?
Oh,
Right.
certainly.
Well, let's
right?
see. Here were the top 10 in order. Drafted. Rodgers, Brady, Breeze. Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr. Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, Cam Newton, Kirk Cousins.
That Derek Carr
Or,
spot.
here's another way to say it. Injured, 2, 10, 15, 1,
Nice.
17, 22, 19, 5, 7, and then Andrew Luck was the 11th off the board, and we know how that turned out. So, 4 of the top 10 drafted ended up as top 10 quarterbacks. Now, if you had one of those 4, maybe you're happy. Maybe you're not. I mean, Drew Brees
You're still
ended
probably not.
Drew Brees ended
right.
up the number 10, right? So he's in that top 10, but he was the 3rd quarterback off the board. Here's some of the players that went undrafted. Carson Wentz, Alex Smith, Deshaun Watson. Rivers was a 9th-round pick. Stafford was a 10th-round pick. You saw Matt Ryan, Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, Drew Brees. They all regressed in fantasy terms. And so what I'm saying is, like Mike said, the kind of temptation is this is the most consistent, safest place for you to invest your picks. You saw major injuries. You saw major regression from different players. And look, from our 25 stats article, we saw a record 43 different quarterbacks end up with a top 12 week. 43.
And that's why it's
And
a
we do this
replaceable
show every
position.
week. We tell you who to stream.
Yeah, it's a replaceable position. You can't
In fantasy.
Yeah, in fantasy. Yes, thank you. I went over those numbers of who's finishing as a top running back. That's why in top wide receiver, you have to spend the early picks on them. And you, once again, we recommend stream the quarterback, but we're saying draft one late because take a shot.
Yeah, maybe you don't have to stream, but you
maybe
didn't.
you drafted Carson Wentz or Alex Smith, and then they turn into your every week starter. Then you don't have to stream.
Right.
The fact is, you spent a low equity pick on someone that if they flamed out, you can easily grab a replacement off of the waiver wire, play those matchups. 43 quarterbacks, including C.J. Beathard, Brock Osweiler, T.J. Yates. These guys all put up a top 12 week.
Yeah,
And you can stockpile your wide receivers and running backs while people are drafting Aaron Rodgers.
And that is to say nothing of the fact that you get to draft another player when you are not drafted. So Drew Brees, you brought him up, right? He was drafted inside the top 10. He finished 10th. Maybe you're happy. I certainly wouldn't be. Because you can replace that position. But look at who goes around Drew Brees in the draft. 2 picks ahead of him. DeAndre Hopkins. 2 picks behind him. Alshon Jeffrey.
Out of that group, you're probably happy with Russell Wilson as the 5th off the board.
Yes.
And Cam Newton is the 9th off the board.
Oh, Cam Newton, he
So,
busted a lot, but
Kirk
you're
Cousins, probably with 10th off the board. I'm just saying, like, you brought it up. It's just let's remember this going into next year, because last year everybody wanted Matt Ryan early. Everybody wanted to make a big deal of this, and this is the ebb and flow. Players do not put up career years every single year.
And just the 43 quarterbacks sort of top 12, that's not an anomaly. The past few years, it's been 40 or more every single season. So it's this last year, this was a late round streamer's dream. It's not always as good as this.
A streamer dream.
You got to be careful with a stream dream.
Yeah.
But it always happens.
All right. Number 5 on the things to remember to not forget from 2017.
I love this one, by the way. Great job. Great job, Jason.
I want you and I want me to remember the success.
Me, not I. Me, not I.
Me, not I.
I want you and me. You and I.
That's what I'm here for, people. You can
Podcast of the year.
You can we fooled them.
FSWA Podcast of the year.
I want you to remember the success that NFL teams have been finding, and especially how much success they found this year utilizing pass-catching running backs. Look at the best teams out there. The Patriots, the Saints, all the teams. Look at what Todd Gurley got involved this year in the passing game. And
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara was a revelation. Christian McCaffrey. Look at the last few years. In 2015, there were 5 running backs in the NFL with 70-plus targets.
So 5 running backs in 2015.
In 2016, there were 6. So it's going up. And this past year, there were 12. And the 12 that, were above that mark, they, generally speaking, played for pretty good teams. They were playoff bound or hopeful. You do have your Duke
Do you
Johnson
have that list,
in there.
like, in front of you?
Yeah.
I have the target list, if that's what you.
Well, actually, I was going to ask about what the carry counts were for those players. I was just curious to how many of them had, 150 plus.
Those
carries.
are the.
Those are the elite of the elite.
Yes.
But
when you're talking
12 running backs with 70 plus targets. You're getting over a third of the league in terms of the pass catching running back making a huge impact.
Yeah, and so if you play in any kind of half point or full point PPR, you need to realize the difference that it makes when you are looking at drafting a guy that is involved in the passing game or isn't. Always lean on the guy that is involved in the passing game. The only exception, the only 2 exceptions I could think of are Ezekiel Elliott and Leonard Fournette, and they're still involved.
But Elliott's a fantastic pass catcher.
He is. They just don't utilize him that much.
And he's not as good when he's suspended. Like his pass catching totals go
down. It goes
down.
to 0.
Fact.
Yeah. The thing is, this is changing the NFL, where a running back with great pass catching skills, they shoot up. No longer are people just trying to get the old prototypical running back. You're like, oh, this guy, 2 downs, he's going to grind it out. He's huge. They want players that can actually catch the ball.
And it's more than that. It's not just you've got a pass catching back and they have a low volume. You can get a volume now as a pass-catching only back to still be valuable in fantasy football. We saw with Danny Woodhead years ago. Corey Clement might be that next year. If it's an Ajayi Clement backfield, or we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Mike, I'm in love with this next one on the list.
Oh, fantastic.
So why don't you share it?
On this list, the number 6 thing, don't forget to remember. What is that?
Just go on. Move on.
Running backs on good teams. Now, this is it's a little more difficult because the NFL has some turnover, also known as Todd Gurley, where the Rams went from worst to first. And
so you might not know that the team's going to be good or bad.
Sometimes you have to project which teams are going to make a leap as a whole. There was only one running back in the top 10 on a sub-500 team. That was Carlos Hyde, and that one you could see it because he was going to get the volume. Only 3 running backs of the top 15 running backs were on sub-500 teams: Carlos Hyde, Jordan Howard, and Duke Johnson. So when you're spending this pick on an early running back, you want them to be on a good team, a high-scoring team. I know that sounds like common sense, but you just don't reach on guys like Isaiah
Crowell, yeah.
He was the poster boy where
the offensive line's great.
Yeah.
And Hugh Jackson wants to run the ball, but they weren't a good team.
Early in the offseason, Isaiah Crowell, we talked about him a lot because in mock drafts, people are getting him in the 5th, 6th round. Fine. I'm fine spending a pick on a bad team running back there, but all of a sudden he jumps into the 2nd. You just know that the probability is so low for him to have a good fantasy year. You took a little bit of a shot with Leonard Fournette projecting that the Jaguars would improve, but again, you're drafting a huge amount of volume. So when you're taking an early pick on a running back, just try to project that team is going to
let me ask you
be
this.
Good.
Let's tease this out a little bit, because one of the tips that we just brought up was how good rookie running backs have been.
Sure.
And you're going to have Saquon Barkley go to a team without question.
Please no.
That was terrible.
Please no.
No, I mean he's going to. He's going to go to a team that was terrible. Now whether they will be terrible is another story. But it's going to be Cleveland, or it's going to be the Giants, or it's going to be another franchise.
Could be Indy, and they could be great if they get Andrew Luck back.
Right, but we still have the
kind of like Ezekiel Elliott went to the Dallas Cowboys when they had a high pick, but they weren't really terrible.
That was a Romo injury.
So if Saquon Barkley goes to the Browns, though, Mike, and with the talent level that he has, but the facts that you just outlaid, what do you do? Or do you downgrade him in your mind?
You're going to have to downgrade him, but Barkley with over 1,200 rushing yards, over 50 receptions last year, that's why he is special. He can become one of these Le'Veon Bell players that's getting 70 or more targets and 200-plus carries. So the volume will be there. Touchdowns could be a situation for Barkley next year, which is why if he does go to Cleveland, he'll probably be in my running back 1 still, but he won't leapfrog players that you may just suspect he will be like, oh, Saquon taking at number 4, he's got to be in your top 5.
All right, number 7 on the list. Depth. One of the ways that I think that we help you, right, as a show, when we break down players, rankings, mock drafts, all these things. Look, it doesn't take a rocket science. It doesn't take
a rocket science?
Did I say science?
You sure did, my friend.
Well, it doesn't.
We tricked them.
It certainly doesn't. No, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you to draft Antonio Brown. It doesn't take one to tell you to draft Ezekiel Elliott or this next year Todd Gurley. Where I think we help people the most is by giving them value, hopefully, finding value, helping you find value in the middle to back of the draft. And the reason why that helps so much is because of this next point. Depth. Do not forget the importance of depth on your team. This used to be my problem as a fantasy owner. Maybe it still is in some capacity because you get stars in your eyes, and if you trade every great player you have and you assemble the best 1 through 8 on your fantasy roster as possible, it is just beautiful. You can screenshot your roster. You can print it out as a poster, and you hang it on your wall. But the fact of the matter is that top-heavy juggernaut team, it's very unlikely that they're going to survive the season, okay? 12 of the top 50 picks by average draft position, they missed time with injury, ranging from season-ending stuff, Odell Beckham Jr., David Johnson, Dalvin Cook, to the bumps and bruises that cost them 2 games here, 1 game here. That's just under 25%. So 1 in 4 of that top 50, you're not going to come out unscathed. It's a very, very low probability that you're going to have this perfect health season. Plus, you've got to deal with bye weeks. Plus, you've got to deal with changes in the depth chart, things that you aren't projecting. And so the message here is build your roster from the first pick to the back of your bench. Don't take any of that for granted. And kind of the caveat here that I want to bring up on top of the enforced point of, hey, depth. The caveat is this. Don't give up. Because injuries, all of these injuries I'm talking about, 25% of these top 50 players, that reconfigures the season. So we had a lot of listeners that were able to go from 1-3, 0-4 starts to playoff contention in championships because they did not give up, and injuries reconfigure. Aaron Rodgers goes down, and all of a sudden Carson Wentz goes down. Remember, depth.
When you don't have depth, and you're building this juggernaut that Andy's talking about, you are building a juggernaut who skips leg day.
Oh,
Look, when you got the shirt off, The pecs are rippling.
Right.
The
Feeling real
biceps
good.
are bulging. You're looking good. And then all of a sudden you got little chicken legs. And
Like
there's
we
the
hide that on
foundation.
the show. I mean, you don't know what our legs are like.
Oh, well, they're huge. They're so
They're
rippling.
we do the inverse.
Yeah, you might
skip
look
arm
like
day.
we don't work out, but
But our
we're
legs
all legs.
are huge.
We're MJD under here.
The depth for the season is crucial. We talk about on the show when it's time to start trading to build that starting roster for the playoff run, but it's a marathon. So get them calves and them quads strengthened up.
I like it. All right, I'm gonna go with my favorite thing to remember from this past year of the points that I'm bringing up. Number 8 of things to remember to not forget in 2017. Remember how bad, or at least disappointing, the vast majority of free agent signings on offense were. And the reality is, this is most years.
Yes.
What happens is when a free agent is signed, we and every other show and every publication and every place writing an article talks about it.
We're so
They
excited.
talk about Terrell Pryor going to Washington.
Pryor!
Could he be good? Could he be bad? And when look,
Dumpster fire!
any publicity is good publicity, right? That's what's happening to their ADP. The more you talk about them, the higher they rise in ADP. Listen to some of the – so you have your honorable exceptions, right? Alshon Jeffrey was just fine.
Yeah.
Robert Woods was better than he was in Buffalo. Those are the
Robert Woods was very good.
Yeah, well, right, but unfortunately he missed the year and people didn't believe in
I like
him.
that you call them honorable exceptions. Very nice.
Yeah, thanks.
So read some of the other guys.
Here's some of the guys that we talked about moving teams in the offseason. Terrell Pryor, Kenny Britt, Martellus Bennett, Deshaun Jackson, Brandon Marshall, Adrian Peterson, Eddie Lacy, Jamal Charles. These were guys that were still drafted. Most of everybody that I just listed was drafted 8th round and up. Adrian Peterson was 5th round.
I feel like there's a
Terrell Pryor was
sub lesson here, and it's that you don't draft players that were really good like in 2012.
well, right.
I mean, I'm looking at Jamal Charles, Eddie Lacy, Adrian Peterson,
Well, to
Brandon
be
Marshall,
fair,
Deshaun Jackson,
Marshawn.
Marshawn Lynch.
To be fair, Deshaun Jackson, I think, was relevant before he moved over. With Washington, he was a 1,000-yard
But
receiver
I think
last year.
Jason's point, though, is you were
well,
not
and
happy.
Terrell Pryor. Terrell Pryor was fine with
yeah.
the Browns before, and
He's
all the
going
narratives
back
will
to
come.
quarterback.
My point is, when you change teams, it's not a good thing; it's a bad thing. Consistency in the NFL is a good thing. A year 2 in a system is a good thing. It's not, but we always make it out to be, ooh, they signed him, they want him, now he's a new target, he's a new weapon. But
As opposed to
it's
second year for Marvin Jones.
Exactly. Second year for Marvin Jones this year, he got a lot better than the first year when he came over. So, yeah, remember, next year and as we go through the offseason, free agent signings to new teams,
Slow your roll.
yeah, slow down.
Number 9 thing to remember, wide receiver touchdowns. They are glorious when you see him put up you're like, oh, that was a 10-point play. Beware, because there are guys that come out of nowhere and all of a sudden you are happy with that player. Some of the top wide receivers, here's what happened to their touchdown totals. DeAndre Hopkins went from 4 to 13. Keenan Allen, 0, of course, but to 6. Jarvis Landry, 4 to 9. The aforementioned Marvin Jones, who was a disappointment last year. He was great this year. What was different? 4 to 9 touchdowns. AJ Green, 4 to 8. Robbie Anderson, waiver wire wonder because he went from 2 to 7 touchdowns. Alshon, bust last year, 2 to 9 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, 3 to 8. Meanwhile, the players who you had them on your team, you feel like they didn't help you, even though
You're a little disappointed, bummed out.
they helped your team. But Julio Jones went from 6 to 3. Michael Thomas was Dolly Parton it, went from 9 to 5. And Mike Evans went from 12 to 5.
Dolly pardoning it.
I couldn't figure out how to work it in exactly, but we got there.
Look,
But
it's important to get Dolly Parton in.
Touchdowns are not sticky. Yes, there are some wide receivers like Antonio Brown, book it. You know you're going to get a lot of them. But these other players, touchdowns come, touchdowns go. Yardage is forever, generally speaking.
I love it.
But that's what I just don't be over enamored when you're looking at a player like their final finish. You go, oh man, Marvin Jones 4-9, and I like Marvin Jones coming to the season, but he had 4 touchdowns 2 years ago.
So would it be wise for, when you look at Julio 6-3, Michael Thomas 9-5, Mike Evans 12-5, those 3 are candidates for some positive regression.
Absolutely. I'm just saying.
And their ADPs are going to be hurt by their finish, whereas maybe it's just the touchdowns that knocked them down.
Don't look at a player like Jarvis Landry and go, 9 touchdowns, eh? Well, that's the new normal. 9 touchdowns for Jarvis.
Jarvis could be both a player switching teams, which we were warned about by Jason, and a player with too many touchdowns.
So when you're looking at the touchdown
do you want to put him on your hate list already?
No.
I like Jarvis Landry as a player.
Well, I know.
But draft responsibly when you're looking at touchdowns.
Yardage is forever, as Mike said. All right, number 10 on the things to remember from 2017. Brooks, why don't you share this
Judge?
one? What's number 10?
Get your league fixed now.
Yeah.
Now.
That was a command
What
from
do
the
you
judge.
mean, Judge?
I mean, if you have any rules that need fixed, bad rules, league communication, bad league mates,
Now's the time?
Get them out. Yeah.
When the memories are fresh of how these bad rules may have ruined your season?
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example, coming from late in the year. If you're playing the Week 17 championship, stop it. Fix it for next year. You can say, before
it's too late.
Yeah, before it's too late. I mean, you don't want to end up look at Week 17 this last year. Wide receiver. Sure, you had Keenan Allen. He played the full game. That was great. They had something to play for. He was the number 1 wide receiver that week. You also have in the top 12 guys like Chris Godwin, Rashard Higgins, Albert Wilson, Travis Benjamin, Tyler Boyd. Like, because all of the – who's not here? Antonio Brown. Well,
he was hurt.
He was hurt, but he wouldn't have been because
Hopkins
was
hurt.
There were too many guys get sat, and
they chose to sat him.
Too many guys, they bench him. And it's always the teams that are playing the best, obviously, because they have clinched their playoff bye. But other rules that you want to change, if you're in a standard league and you're like, man, it does seem like this is more of a passing league, maybe we suggest going to half-point PPR, or I think the biggest rule change that you should make in your league outside of the Week 17 championship, going from a waiver wire reverse order system to a waiver free agent auction system, a FAB system, is fabulous.
I'll say this about FAB, because I know there's still some people out there reluctant to try it. Like, I'm concerned. Is it too complex? We're used to the waiver system. I've had conversations with many, 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 many fantasy football players. I have never once had someone come to me and say, hey, I switched to FAB. It was awful. Yeah. Everyone comes back and says, holy crap, how have I been missing out on the fun and enjoyment and the equal playing level that FAB brings to your waiver system? So if you're thinking about it, now is the time to start pining and getting people ready to do it.
All right. Well, if you need a refresher course, you can always re-listen to this in another month from now. And
yes.
When you get things going. So those were the 10 things to remember from 2017 for 2018, and hopefully you enjoyed them. I think they were very insightful.
Don't forget, you can download World of Warships for free at commandwarships.com. Enter the code footballers18, all caps. You're going to get a bunch of bonus content from us, free premium ships, some in-game currency. World of Warships, download it today at commandwarships.com.
And as we close out today's episode, I always want to remind you can subscribe on the Apple Podcast app. We always appreciate your reviews. We're also on YouTube. You can watch the show.
Turn on your notifications.
Yeah, click the little bell and support the podcast. And we will be back next week. And we'll be back tomorrow with an exclusive episode for jointhefoot.com supporters as well, going through the mailbag, answering questions. And please play with us at draft.com/ballers.
That's ball.
Yes.
Get it.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.